beyond the azure blue, far God concealed from human sight. He tinted skies with heavenly hue, and framed the worlds with His great might. There is a God.
Ukraine is our mission work for the month of May. Notice the question. Where will the money that we collect go, and what will it be used for? That's a good question, isn't it? Let's start off by looking at Ukraine for just a minute. You can see it right almost in the dead center of that map, can't you? To the north, east is Russia, and that's where they are invading Ukraine. To the left is Europe. To the south is Africa, and also below it is Turkey. It's not a huge country by any imagination. It is the largest country, however, totally in Europe. It consists of 24 provinces, and there are over 44 million people who live in Ukraine, or at least used to live in Ukraine. The capital is Kiev, or if you listen to the news lately, it's Kyiv. I guess it depends on whether you're country or whether you're not country. Things just change as you go along. But it's a beautiful city, folks. Or at least it used to be. The religion in Ukraine is an interesting situation. There's what is referred to as the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. It is somewhat similar to Catholicism. However, there are 4 different branches of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. But when you combine all 4 of those branches, it consists of 32.1% of the population. Now watch this next one. The Protestants. And we would be grouped in that group right there. 0.9%. Isn't that unbelievable? 0.9%. Catholics, 0.6%. Islam is there, and it's 0.2%. Judaism is there, 0.1%. Now there's other individuals in the nation who would say, well, yes, I have a religion, but it's none of those things, and they account for 3.2% of the population. Add those up. Folks, we're not even at 40% of the population. Here's what's interesting. 62.5% of the population of Ukraine will say we are not religious. We are not affiliated with the church. We are not affiliated with any religious group whatsoever. We are just secularists in our mindset. That's unbelievable, isn't it? That's really a rich field to go into. Because at least I do not have to fight false doctrine, do I? I've just got to fight individuals who may not believe in God, or maybe they have some belief in God, but they're not connected to a religion whatsoever. But the church over there is very, very, very small. I've talked about in times past this war in Ukraine, haven't we? It started February the 24th, just a little over 2 months ago. Folks, the casualties in 2 months' time, just regarding civilians, is this: 5,840 are dead. That's just the civilian population. That's not any of their soldiers whatsoever. Of those, 201 have been children. When we say children, we're talking about boys and girls under the age of 18. There's been 3,111 injuries. Of those, 299 have been children. 4 million people, citizens, have exited Ukraine as refugees and have gone into the surrounding nations. It is believed that over the course of the next 2 or 3 months, up to 8 million of the citizens will go into other countries because they've been displaced. Unbelievable, isn't it? 8 million people, folks. That means their population will be down to 36 million rather than 44 million. I've talked about Lisa and Artem Bondarenko. They are members of the Lord's church over in Ukraine. They live in Kiev, and this is that couple. On a daily basis, they hear the sirens go off. On a daily basis, they have to get down in bunkers. They're constantly hearing explosions. They're constantly hearing gunfire. They constantly know that the Russians are outside of their city. There's dead bodies laying in the streets, and dead bodies laying between them and the border, any direction they go, just about. She posts a lot of pictures relative to the war, and most of us have seen many of them. Folks, these are houses, neighborhoods that individuals live in like us. How would you like that to be your neighborhood now? How'd you like to have to try to drive down that street in your city? She put up this picture the other day. This is a little girl. They had their home totally destroyed. And she was elated that she found her cat alive and she's holding it. This little girl visits the grave of her mother on a regular basis. Her mother died of starvation because of the war. Folks, this is stuff you and I don't even have to deal with, do we? We don't even have to think about it. Can you imagine being a little child? You walk out, there is no more home, and you find your kitten, your cat, and you're just elated that I've got my cat. The question that was asked is, how in the world are we going to support Ukraine? I don't think this church has ever supported Ukraine before. And that's the way it's been with a lot of congregations of the Lord's people up until now. But we see the images, don't we? And we know those individuals are hurting. Our governments, to some extent, have had their hands tied because of various government deals that have been worked out. And we sit here and say, how in the world can I help? I want to do something for those individuals. There's 3 possible avenues that I've found that we can help those in Ukraine. One of them is referred to as Operation Ukraine. It is a non-profit organization. That organization was founded by this woman, Kathy Caden. I know absolutely nothing about Kathy Caden. The organization is established in Columbus, Mississippi. They've also done a lot of work in Haiti. So that's one avenue that we need to investigate, that we can look at to see if it is worthy of support. Here's another one, the Del Reyta Church of Christ. They're located in Montgomery, Alabama. They have 5 elders, 24 deacons. They are a large congregation of the Lord's people. That's their church building there. Folks, they have already been doing mission work in Ukraine for years and years and years. They have a congregation there that they support. And once the war broke out, they became a place that was a distribution center for relief in Ukraine, getting things into Poland and then on into the nation of Ukraine. So this congregation is one that is trustworthy, One that you know that once you send your money there, that they're going to make certain it gets to those individuals. There's a third avenue, and it's through a man by the name of Roger Campbell. Roger Campbell is a sound gospel preacher. There's a picture of him and his wife Donna. They're about to go on a mission trip even there. He has been a missionary in Ukraine. I just preached a meeting in Bremen, Georgia, and his daughter is the preacher's wife there at Bremen. Like I said, he's done mission work in Ukraine, and what he's been doing over the last several months is he's been collecting monies. He then gets in contact with those preachers, and when they have a need, he sends those monies directly to those individuals so that they can take care of whatever needs they have in their congregation. Someone might say, what kind of needs do they have? There's one preacher who is located on the border between Ukraine and Poland. Folks, sometimes individuals leave their homes at night, make long trips trying to get to the border to get out and become refugees in Poland. By the time they get to the border, they're tired, they're hungry, they're weary. He has set up 80 cots in his house and in the church building. And individuals can come, they sleep on those cots, they feed those individuals for a day or two, and then send them on their way to complete their journey, whether they're going in the country or out of the country. Can you imagine? When that man has need of food, when that man has need of another cot, whatever it might be, Roger's able to make certain that he gets the money to make certain those supplies are there. Here's what's interesting. I've asked Lisa and her husband several times, what can we do for the church in Kyiv? And she says, we don't need anything right now. We just need you to pray for us. Isn't that amazing? And Roger says the same thing. Roger says that when he calls those individuals, hey, how can I help you? How much money do you need? What can I send you? They'll tell him immediately, we just don't need anything. Folks, they're very independent. They're very proud. And they don't like taking help and assistance, but it's needed desperately.